classes. So, do you guys have your books out? And then we would be on the glow germ activity. I guess there's not page numbers, but it says glow germ activity and what we'll need for hand washing. Does everybody have that? Okay. So it's pretty straightforward. How many have you guys worked with the glow germ stuff before? No. Okay. I know like at our daughter's elementary school and stuff, they've done it. Basically, you have this glow germ and it's a lotion that when you expose it to the black light, it will glow, right? So kids love it. You can put it on your hand. The point is to put it on your hands and then wash your hands and see how well you actually wash your hands because you can see before and then after. Um, so if you look at the directions, we'll go through this kind of quick because the chromatography is going to take a little bit longer. Are you guys okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay. So the first thing that you're supposed to do is just put a little dab of like a nickel size amount of the glow germ into your hands, into your hand. And then I'm doing that right now. And then you're going to spread it around just like lotion. And you need to make sure that you get everywhere that germs could get your fingernails. You want to rub it in your hands really, 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 really good.
Could you give those instructions one more time? I just had to run my toddler to the bathroom. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. So all we were doing is taking about a nickel size drop of this glow germ lotion and putting it in your hands and then just kind of rubbing it all around. Like get it on your nails if you have like rings, whatever. And then you can take the black light and you can see where you have most of the germs. So the glowing is supposed to represent any kind of germs that you would have picked up. And I have a super ugly thumb. It's covered. I'm not going to show you. But anyways, you can kind of see um really around the nails is where most of my stuff is.
God, don't make ugly. It's beautiful.
Oh no, my thumb is ugly. My nail is like half ripped off. I'll show you. It's ugly. Ugly. So once you have seen what your hands look like with the glow germ, then you can go ahead and to your sink, you can go wash your hands just like you would wash normal. And then we can come back and we can look at how well we actually wash hands. And I believe there were a number of you that had healthcare classes. Is that right? So this would be something really good to start off the year, um, having them see, especially for lab safety and lab cleanliness, so they're not contaminating stuff and getting their lab stations dirty. So I'm gonna go wash my hands really quick. Okay. And I'm going to check my fingers, and my ugly thumb still has a lot in my nail. other than that, I think most of it is just where I didn't get was like the creases of my nails. How about you guys?
My light isn't working.
Um,
I'm gonna
if
go
you
check and see if I have more batteries.
okay, because the batteries, there was two of them you put one way, and then what I thought was weird with the light, and I don't know if you saw this or didn't, but it has an arrow on the battery pack.
Yeah, I saw that. I checked the direction of the batteries.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe one's just
The arrow was pointing the opposite way I thought it should be pointing. Like I thought it should be pointing in, but it should actually be pointing towards the light.
It should be pointing towards the light. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's how I put it in. Let me see.
How's everybody else hand washing coming out? Good.
Looks cleaner, but not
You know,
perfect.
it would be fun to I think it would be fun to compare what a drying off with a real hand towel versus school paper towels that don't absorb anything because they don't dry off anything. So I think that would be an interesting experiment.
Oh
This-
no. Yeah, we use them at the lab stations, but you just kind of push the water into the sink. The paper towels are awful. The other thing, we had a class one year that actually took their lab station and made like grid with tape and then did different amounts of scrubbing in the different quadrants to see what made a difference for actually wiping their station clean. So I think you could look at a lot of different things with the glow germ. And then one other thing, there was an environmental teacher once that was at a training, and he was talking about trying to use the glow germ as almost like an indicator, maybe for like invasive species. So he would put the glow germ on like a little boat, and then you could try to wash it or move it from, like beaker to beaker to represent lake to lake. And then you could see what had come off in the beaker in terms of the glow germ that could represent like an invasive species. So in this lab, it's meant for obviously hand washing, but you could use it for other things too. Are you guys okay with the glow germ? Any questions about it?
Hey, does anybody know anything about diamonds and their ability to glow under ultraviolet light? Some of mine are glowing and some of them aren't.
Oh, I have a lot of green. I have a lot of glow germ in my ring.
Yeah, I do too. I have a
That's
lot
what
of
it is.
I don't know.
It's interesting. I'm gonna have to research that.
Yeah.
I thought some of the lab diamonds had tags in them and you could see through glow stuff.
Can y'all see that? Like some are glowing and some are not.
No, it's super
that-
weird.
yeah.
I have one of mine that's glowing.
That is
One.
crazy.
One little square.
And then this ring has 3 levels of like different types of gems, but only one is glowing.
Crazy.
That is weird. Does this the glow germ, does it transfer to other things? Like could you do you've got it on your hands and now you've touched all this stuff?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, for sure.
Is this something that you can just buy from like Carolina or something?
I think you can get it off Amazon. If you have a healthcare class, I usually borrow the glow germ from our healthcare teachers. They usually have a bunch of it, but you can get a bottle, I think, for decently cheap.
Awesome.
I was just going to say, when I was at Athens Tech, we took a field trip to Takeda, which is the largest biotech company in the state. And they use this to train how to wash your hands. They have a whole standard operating procedure of how you wash your hands, and they use this stuff.
That's cool.
That is.
There's a
Yeah.
mark.
I even think long ago with one of the classes that I did, it was like literally green. Like now this is just used ultraviolet light. But it was like a green, like you would start with and you'd wash your hands and where you still saw the coloration. So this is better with the ultraviolet.
There is a video online that this gentleman, Mark Rover, made about the glow germ stuff. And he started his experiment with the teacher having it on her hand. And then she shook the kids' hands as they were coming in the room, the first 3 kids. And then from there, they just kind of throughout the day, at the end of the day, they saw just how much it had spread just from the teacher having started it.
That's
I thought
really
that was
cool.
pretty interesting.
That is very cool.
Is there anything else about the glow germ? Okay. And then there was a number of physical science teachers, right? In this group. I only see a few people at once, so
Yes, I
okay.
teach physical science.
Okay. So this chromatography lab, it's great really for a number of classes. So if we flip really quick to, you can see the lab name is called Kool-Aid Chromatography, and it goes through and it provides standards and the lesson description and stuff. But if we skip to the next page, the first thing when you're doing this activity is you have to know how to make dilutions. And I find that my students kind of struggle with this math a little bit, like conceptually. But if you think, if you're trying to dilute something, if you have 100% like orange solution and you pour half of it into a beaker and half with water, it should be half as concentrated as that original solution, right? Does that make sense? I wish I had an orange solution right now. Are you guys good with that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, have any of you worked with the equation C1V1 equals C2V2 before?
It's been since college, but yes.
Okay. So basically this equation, I'm really struggling because I have to have the camera facing one way and then it's kind of a mess in here. But okay, can you guys see this? So you have C1V1 equals C2V2. This way. I think. Can you see where I'm writing? This is a struggle. Okay. So C1 is going to be your initial concentration of something. Like in this lab, we're going to use 70% alcohol. You might also have 91% alcohol. That's your initial concentration. V1 is what we are going to solve for. C2 is the concentration that you want. And V2 is the volume of solution you want to make. Okay. So for example, if you look at question number 1 on the right, it says a student needs to make 150 milliliters of a V1 isopropyl alcohol solution. The isopropyl alcohol solution they have on hand. And guys, I actually modified this because the lab takes a little longer. So I modified it. So we're gonna do questions 1 and 2, and then we're gonna make our solutions for the lab after we do questions 1 and 2. Are you guys okay with that? All right. So I modified mine to say what they have on hand is 70% instead of 91, because that is what Megan mailed us,
Good
right?
reasoning.
And then it says how much of the 70% isopropyl will they need to use basically to make this diluted 5% alcohol solution. Okay. So we have 4 variables in the equation. So C1 V1 equals C2 V2. Our C1 is our initial concentration. So can you guys tell me what you would put in for C1?
Is
70.
it 70%? Would you do it as a decimal?
You take it right as 70.
Okay.
Yes. And then we're solving for V1 because we want to know how much of that 70% we need to add with water to dilute it down. Okay.
Mhm.
And so our C2, what do we want the new concentration to be? What do we want to dilute it to?
5%.
5%. And how much do we want to make total?
150 milliliters.
150 milliliters. Okay. And then solving for V1, you would multiply 5 by 150 and then divide by 70. Is everybody okay with that math?
Mhm.
And I'm going to type in my calculator right now. 5 times 150 equals divided by 70. And so our V1 is about 10.7 milliliters of 70% alcohol. Whoa. Oh, whoa. Alcohol there. Did everybody try that? So,
Yeah.
is everybody okay so far?
Mhm.
Okay. So the next part of the question is, what are the steps needed to make the 5% alcohol? So typically, so Megan sent us a 100 milliliter graduated cylinder, right?
Mhm.
The question is asking us to make 150. So I guess we can do it in 2 parts really, and then pour it in our beaker. But typically you would add a little bit of water and then you would put your alcohol in and then you would add more water. And that would just help mix things up a little bit better. So you would add total, we would add 139.3 milliliters of water. And then we would add 10.7 milliliters of the alcohol for a total of 150 milliliters.
Okay.
So if you're doing this with your students and letting them make it, you need to make sure that they understand that 150 is the total volume. Because if you put 150 plus 10.7, that's not going to give you 5% anymore.
That
Are you guys okay with this?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. So, you guys have some beakers and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if you're okay with it, I think what is easiest is if we want to measure out to get a 139.3. Now these graduated cylinders don't go to the 0.3, but if you did like 139 and 11, that will work for this lab. if that's easier to measure because of the accuracy of these.
Does this need to be the distilled water?
Distilled water means I'm going to Kroger and buying it before every lab. So sometimes distilled runs through our tap. And the tap water is fine for these chromatography columns, but obviously best practice is distilled water.
In my physical science class, this is distilled water through the tap. It's distilled water.
Yes,
I tell them
so,
it's distilled water at that level.
yeah. So it's kind of a real thing. So Dr. Rapp, don't judge us, okay? On tap water for distilled.
We do have a machine that will distill water in our chem lab, but it takes so long for such a little amount.
Yeah, we had one and the filament broke, and the filament's
Yeah.
like $700 or something.
Yeah.
So I have a student that works at Kroger, and I give them money and they use their Kroger card to get a discount. So
I mean, for honors chem and chemistry and that kind of thing, yeah, but for my physical science students,
tap water works just fine for us.
yeah,
So
I think
I'm
it's just
gonna-
fine.
it's just fine.
So I'm gonna make my 5% alcohol solution really quick. If you guys want to make yours.
Okay, I'm confused.
Okay, what do you need help with?
Okay, you're supposed to have a total of 150 milliliters, but this thing only goes up to 100.
So I actually just did 100 of water, and now I'm going to do 40. No,
Okay.
39 of water.
Sections.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that again?
Oh, sorry, I was at the sink. So, in my graduated cylinder, I measured 100 milliliters of water, and then I went back to get 39 milliliters of water. And then I'm going to measure 11 of the alcohol. And I know it's not super exact to our calculations, but it will work for the lab. And I think the other thing I would like to make sure, is everybody okay with reading the meniscus on the graduated cylinders?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but this one looks, on the one they sent us, it kind of bubbles up and not down. It's weird.
Let me look.
Or am I the only one that sees that on their graduated cylinder? Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's like a little, there's no dip. It's like a little up on this one. It's like
Yeah, it's like a
Prop-
foggy line.
yeah, I mean, the old ones that I've got, my kids use, I don't know if I can't get to the camera because it's blurring, but it's just, it's done a good job of not really having one.
I know that they were talking about the base exam and some of the practice questions, and if it was on the exam, but those are the kinds of skills that kind of seem small to us, but to get the base exam credentials that you still have to be thinking about when you do them.
It's still a challenge to my 17-year-old students.
Yes.
So it's still a big deal. Again, I don't teach the honors, so.
Well, when we do pipetting,
Hi,
some of
teachers.
the best
Our
pipetting,
after-school program is over for the day. If you
some of the best pipetting that I did was with a co-taught class in middle school.
Oh yeah.
They were great at it.
Just trying to get them to understand. Now the small one happens. Just trying to get them to understand that, you know, there's a reason for the precision.
Yes.
They just want to rush through and then talk. Sometimes. Many times.
So at this point, do most of us have the 5% alcohol made?
Almost. I'm being too slow.
That's okay. I'm just kind of flipping through to
Got
see, to double check. Okay. I'm going to give you guys another minute and then we'll be looking at the next question. So if you are done and you want to try to solve the next question number 2 on your own first, then you can do that while we're waiting a minute.
9 more water.
What do you need?
Talking to myself.
iPad paper? Oh, I have these, yeah, from last week. Don't have that. You're gonna have to get up in that cabinet and get the colors down, right? Okay. So I'm gonna start to look at question number 2. Is everybody ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So question number 2 says how much 70% isopropyl alcohol solution would be needed to make 200 milliliters of 25% isopropyl alcohol. So if we go back to our equations, C1V1 equals C2V2. Again, what is our initial concentration of alcohol?
70.
70. And then we're going to solve for V1, which is how much of that we're going to need. And C2, what is the new concentration that we want to dilute
25%.
down? 25. And how much do we want to make this time?
200.
200. So the math, we do 25 times 200. Low battery, 25 times 200 equals divided by 70. Comes out to about 71.4 milliliters of alcohol. And then again, if we're making 200, this would be, oh, I am so not in the thing.
128.6 of water. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes. Of water.
Uh-huh.
And what, 72
Of alcohol.
alcohol. Thank you.
Are we making this one too?
Yeah, we're actually going to make this one too for the 25%. If you guys want to make that right now, and then we'll just have to do the same thing with the graduated cylinder and just kind of double up on it. $100. So if you're finished making your 5% and 25% solution, there's 2 more practice problems on the back. of that sheet if you'd like to do them. Or you can do them later and we can go back over them really quick next week if you want to make sure you're still good with C1V1. And then if you're good with C1V1, we're going to be looking at this chromatography lab. I'm just kind of watching to see when people are done making their stuff. Okay. So those of you that are done, if you're able to look at the Kool-Aid chromatography, there's one more thing you have to make. Did you guys happen to, I forget, did she ask you guys to make the Kool-Aid ahead of time? Megan? So do you all have the Kool-Aid made? 0.3 grams in 100 milliliters?
No, I don't have it made.
Okay. So to make the Kool-Aid, you can grab the purple Kool-Aid that she gave you or the green Kool-Aid, and you just need to weigh out 0.3 grams, and then you'll add that to 100 milliliters of water.
Did we get some sort of scale?
I don't know that she sent a scale. If you don't have a scale, let me show you kind of, I guess, like gauging it by eyesight, what it would look like.
Because I made it. I thought it just said some of the Kool-Aid. So I just randomly put Kool-Aid in water.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, so I didn't do it.
It's okay. We've definitely messed up the Kool-Aid amount in the past, and you know, it'll be okay. Color wise, in your beaker, this is, I don't know if you guys can see that. I can't even see my own screen. I guess that's what it looks like. So kind of dark, but not really dark.
Okay, crazy. I've used both of my beakers to make alcohol solutions. Was that not what I was supposed to have done?
No, yeah, I have 2 alcohol solutions. Do you have an extra cup or beaker for your Kool-Aid by any chance?
Like, I mean, I just have a cup because I'm in my kitchen, so I can do that. Okay.
Okay.
You pulled out the beakers. I'm like, oh, crud.
Hey, also, I did the same thing with the Kool-Aid, but I was just thinking if you multiply, there's 3.9 grams in the Kool-Aid packet. So if you can make extra solution, you'll still have the same concentration. I don't know if you can measure out the Kool-Aid you already have and add water to it if it's less than that.
I was overweighing this out. I'm so sorry. Can you guys see that? It's like a thin layer of powder, maybe the size of a quarter, is about 0.3 grams.
If I use the purple and mess that all up, can I use the green now?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, mine's pretty dark, like yours was, but I don't, it's kind of hard to tell with darkness.
It definitely is. And I'm glad you're doing green too. I'm glad some people are doing green so we can see both.
Give me just a second to get a cup.
Okay. The other things you guys will need ready if you want to get them out is the well plate and the syringe and this chromatography column that says C18.
I am so lost.
Yeah, there's been times instead of 0.3 grams, students have put like 3 grams. It's hey, so it's a little different, but you know. The good thing about this lab is if you choose to do it with your students, if they do it right, these columns are reusable forever. I have some that are not reusable, but that's okay. I just give them a new one. All right, so I'm gonna kind of scroll through to see who's ready. Hi, Lily, are you ready? Lily Ochoa. Okay. Oh, you want to see Lily real quick? There you go. She ducked down. Okay, Sophia wanted to say hi again. All right. So, the way the lab works, if you look at the procedure, it says prepare 500 milliliters. So we obviously didn't make 500 milliliters. You don't need that much to do this individually. We will still have wasted alcohol solution. Okay. So the 500 milliliters would be more to make it for one class worth. Okay. The steps, if you read through the steps, and I'm going to give you the short version, is the first and second step are pre-treating this carbon filter. Okay. This carbon 18 filter has 18 carbons in a chain, all with hydrogens on them. So if you do any kind of like chemistry stuff, that's what this is in this column. And the column itself is non-polar. Okay. So there's 18 carbons, all with hydrogens, and the column itself is non-polar. So this whole lab, this whole chromatography lab, you're basically going to be using chromatography or separating molecules. And in this case, the separation of the molecules is based on their polarity. Okay. You guys okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay. So in order to treat this so the lab works right, the first thing that you have to do is you're going to need to take the column off for a second, and then you're going to need to take the plunger out. Then you can put the column back on, and you're going to pour 10 milliliters of your 70% alcohol into the syringe. And then you can stick the plunger back on. And if you guys have anything, maybe you could grab your graduated cylinder kind of as a waste container. but then you're going to put that 70% alcohol just into the sink or into a waste beaker. And sometimes it's really hard to push down on it. Okay. Is everybody okay with that? 10%, I'm sorry, 10 milliliters of your highly concentrated alcohol through the chromatography column.
Okay.
Okay. Then you'll want to take the column off again and take the plunger out again and then put the column back on. The reason I'm doing this column is like a one-way system. So you only want to push stuff through it. You don't ever want to suck stuff back up it. Does that make sense? And then you're going to want to put 10 milliliters of, it says distilled, but we're going to go tap water. If you have distilled, great. So 10 milliliters of water into the syringe, and then you're going to push that through. All right, I am pushing my water through. And I don't know how much detail you want, but in Mark and I were talking about this lab a little bit, and this pre-treatment, when you run the alcohol through, anything that might still be in that column that's non-polar is going to wash out with that non-polar alcohol. Anything that's polar is going to wash out with the water that you push through that column. So you're kind of prepping it to have nothing that's polar or non-polar still in the column.
Now, when we do this with our students, do we have to have another filter for each use, or do we have to
No.
redo this for each use?
So we're going to go through it one time.
Oh, okay.
And at the end, the alcohol that you put in will basically set this up for like your next class to use. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as, so once we set it up, the one on here, we'd have to do it multiple times with the other ones, but once we set that up, as long as the students don't draw anything back through it,
it should be fine.
it should be good to go.
For the whole lab.
And my next class period after that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so
how many uses do you get out of one filter?
If your students do it right, they will last you the rest of your career.
Okay.
Then hope and pray.
If your kids go start to finish correctly, they'll last you. They'll last.
And how do you know if they're messed up?
At the end, you'll still see stuff in the column itself.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So at this point, we are on the next page. And we are at the part of the lab where it says to add 10 milliliters of Kool-Aid. So I took the plunger off again. I took the column off. I took the plunger out, and I'm going to put 10 milliliters of Kool-Aid in. Okay. Put the plunger back on. And guys, this is mind-blowing for students. So once you have that system set, then you're going to go to this well plate. And you're going to dispense your purple Kool-Aid into these wells as they fill up.
We put 10 milliliters in each well? No.
10 you put 10 milliliters of Kool-Aid in your syringe. And then like I ended up using 4 wells.
Okay.
So as they started to fill, I just moved it to the next one. And so what do you guys notice about the solution that came out?
It's clear.
It's clear. And the students freak. And then they look at the column and all of the color that makes the purple Kool-Aid, the pigments, are in the column. Because the pigments themselves are also non-polar. So you have a non-polar column keeping those non-polar pigments. Okay. And then now you don't run Kool-Aid through anymore.
Are we going horizontal or vertical?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Does everybody have their purple Kool-Aid run through? Yes.
I do.
Okay.
Mine wasn't
Cheers.
clear though.
Ooh, Oscar. What?
It
Mine
started
started
off,
clear and then wasn't.
it started off clear, and then each well got progressively more red.
Mine did the same thing.
Okay. So depending on maybe the water that you had put through. So let me back up a little bit. So again, the point of this lab is to separate molecules based on their polarity, right? So depending on the alcohol or depending on the water that you treated the column with, if there was any alcohol still left in that column, it could have run out with some of the water, which will draw out some of the pigment. Because what we're going to find out is now that we have the purple stuff in here, right? The red and the blue, the purple Kool-Aid. We're going to take first the 5% alcohol you made. Okay, and remember that this is a one-way system. So you got to take the column off, and then you have to add the alcohol to the 5%, not 25, 5% to your syringe. And you're going to add 10 milliliters of it. And you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to start pushing that 5% through. And do you see what color came out first? Is the red pigment that's in Kool-Aid. So that's the only thing I can think of, Oscar, that might have, if somehow there was a little bit of like a hiccup getting that alcohol through and then that water through.
Do we actually do what you just did?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So should the filter now have purple and red in it?
It does now.
So after you put the Kool-Aid through, it should have like more of a purple looking.
Okay.
And then I'm actually going to run a little bit more 5% through because my last well still is a little pink. So when you read the lab directions, it will tell you to run 5% through until your solution that comes out of the syringe is clear.
Okay.
Just remember, take the filter off first.
Yes.
I think that's where my students are going to go wrong, because I almost did. So it's
Yeah.
not no shade on them.
No,
Sorry. We ended up with one where it's red, purple, and then blue. Is that wrong?
you have one that's red, purple, and blue.
There's one that's red, one that's purple, and one that's blue. Do we mess up?
Is it kind of like a little bit of mine right there? Can you see that?
Let's see.
One
No.
No,
No,
it is like red, purple,
There.
blue.
Oh, dang. Okay.
What the heck? Do we mess up?
Okay. You didn't add Kool-Aid again. Oh,
No.
Kool-Aid only once, right?
Yep, correct.
And then you did the 5% first.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you make the Kool-Aid with 0.3 grams? Or did you
No.
like eyeball it with a ton more?
We guesstimated.
Okay. So
that look.
that might be part of that problem, is like the columns overloaded with
Purple.
the pigments,
Okay.
the
Okay.
red and blue pigment.
Okay.
So
You know what? I think I did the same thing.
Blue school though.
You got purple. You got purple, blue, and red.
Yeah, like the 3 different.
So no, mine's kind of nuts. I don't, hang on. Let me see if I can.
it's Lily's fault.
It's probably, so it starts off like clear
Oh.
orange, and then it goes to red, then it goes really red, purple, and now it's blue.
Did you use the whole Kool-Aid pack?
I used the whole thing.
No, you did not. Did you really?
I did. I
The
mixed
whole
it up
Kool-Aid
like
pack, all of
the
it.
commissioner said.
Okay. Well, I think I'm sorry, but I
Like I
think
made a
that
whole
might-
picture.
Oh.
Oh snap!
Well, that's more diluted than probably what Oscar
Yeah,
has.
yeah, the instructions did not give any amounts. I was like, as
Okay.
a scientist, I was sitting here thinking, okay, I'll just put a little sprinkle.
Okay.
Yeah. It just
Oh,
said.
So-
But once you said the 3.3 grams, I went and got a scale from my lab next door.
Yes.
So it says to use 0.3 grams. I use 3.6 grams.
Okay. I'm thinking that that's going to be the issue if your colors are a little bit more vibrant and mixing all over the place, maybe.
Yeah.
But
It's the same thing that your kids are going to do. You know,
here's what you should have. I don't know if I got to take my blur off. Hold on. It's really pretty. Hold on. What's the background? I got to take my blur off. Okay, you keep talking. Let me see. Or else
So-
it's not going to.
if your lab is going correctly with just seeing the pink coming out first, if you're ready to put the 25% alcohol through,
Where's the camera?
oh, I saw it.
Is it? I don't know where it is in relation to, because it's on my tablet. So I don't know. It looks America. Very America.
But once you have your, man, I can't get this plunger. Okay, once you have your 25% alcohol in there, then you can go and get the blue out. Got like the most difficult plunger. All right. So this is what should happen. And again, I mean, you know, there's going to be all kinds of stuff. And you might want to work with your students and demonstrate, because Megan will send you enough for a class. Like you would tell her how many you need. If you wanted them to work in pairs or groups of 3, then you could tell them, and then you would be able to use that column stuff for each class, right? So if you look at this, it's mostly clear at the end.
I think what I would do for my students, I mean, I got class size of 31. That's just,
It's a
we did a
lot.
rainbow lab at the beginning of the year, just simple following instructions, and, takes 5, reading the graduated cylinder, take 5 mils from this test tube and put it in this test tube, and so many from this, right? And at the end, they did it right at the end, every test tube would end with the same volume and be in a rainbow.
Oh,
Okay. Maybe 50% of my lab groups got the rainbow. Some got the rainbow, varied amounts. Anyway, I think what I'd have to do with these filters is that I would have to keep the solutions up at the front, and I'd have to be the one to take off, pour in. Okay, now go squeeze this.
Yeah, the other thing, I don't know, depending on how your stuff works, is if you had a couple like accelerated kids that were ahead, and you maybe showed them ahead of time, and they could help kind of be like teacher helpers and help a couple groups too.
I would have to have my NHS kid come in second period. That's my biggest one.
Yeah.
And that's just the only way I can think. no fault against them. It's a large class. And I would accidentally draw it, but I think
no.
I love it. This is better than the coffee filter marker.
Yes, so here's the thing about this lab. I don't want to forget to tell you, at the end, you need to run 70% through again. So those of you that have run the 5% through and then the 25% through, we have to run 70% through again, because that should kind of get it at its holding pattern until you're ready to use it again. So I'm going to make sure to do that before I forget.
So we're basically cleaning the filter.
You're recleaning it.
Okay.
And so, Oscar, let me ask you, what does your filter look like right now?
Mine just, it's white.
Yours is white. Mine is white, but yours, you put in a whole thing of Kool-Aid. What?
Yeah, so it's interesting because it started off super light and went to orange, then red, then like really red. Then it went into purple, then into like a super dark blue, and then the blue's lightening up. And now it's kind of clear, but my little filter is almost back to clear because at first it was looking
Okay.
like purple Kool-Aid.
So yeah, I mean, the filters are pretty resilient overall, especially if you clean them at the end with 70% or 91%.
Okay.
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 So they're pretty resilient. What was I gonna say? So this lab is super cool because you can apply it to plant pigments. You could like extract plant pigments and try to use it with this. You can use the orange Kool-Aid. You can use any of the secondary colors. So orange, green, and purple. And I think the green actually is the prettiest because it comes out blue and yellow. And it looks really cool. But to get to the heart of the matter and to kind of like close us out for the evening is, again, the lab is about polarity and separating pigments based on their oh, that's the yeah, can you guys see Michelle's?
Well, that's
It's
cool.
the blue and the yellow.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I left my 70% at school. I used 99.5%, but when I did my calculations, I did it with the 99.5 instead of the 70. But does that matter? Is that okay?
No, because you're still making 5% and 25%.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. So when you're thinking about it, it's important that students understand that water is polar, right? And alcohol is non-polar, or at least it's less polar than water. And then the pigments that came out. So the red pigment is going to be a more polar pigment than the blue, because the red pigment came out with the 5% alcohol, which if you have, if you think of it like a scale, like water is the most polar, 5% would be less polar than water, and 25% would be the least polar or the most non-polar. So then if you're comparing these two pigments, the red is more polar than the blue, or the blue is more non-polar than the red. I don't think I mixed that up. Is that right? That's right. Okay.
Because it comes out first.
Because the red came out with the 5%.
Yeah, with the 5%.
Yeah, so that solution has more water than the 25%.
So the first color you get is more polar.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
First color you get is more polar because it came out with the solution that was mostly water?
Yes. And teaching your students the C1 V1 equation and teaching them how to use that. I think in terms of like a biotech job or anything that the guest speaker was talking about, that's almost like an invaluable equation. Students use that all the time. And if they head towards kind of like a biotech, that they have to know how to do that. And then in terms of polarity, I think the water being polar and pigments and polarity is covered in a huge number of classes. From AP Bio, you could touch on it in environmental, forensics. What? Oh yeah, physical science. We talked about that at the beginning. So I think it hits a lot of different things. And I know that the lab is called Kool-Aid chromatography, but it's cool. Like it's really cool. And the kids really like it. So I don't know if you guys have any other questions about the lab, making the solutions, treating the chromatography column. Ooh, that was my mom. Sorry.
I guess really I mean, I feel like I'm gonna have so much left over to throw away. So is there anything I can use the alcohol mixtures for?
So we made that for time because of the questions.
Okay.
If you think about it, basically 10 milliliters of 5% and 10 milliliters of 25% got us individually each through one lab from start to finish. So if you multiplied that by the number of groups you would have, I think you'd have a way better estimate of how much you would need to make.
Okay.
To start. Or they're just making less. Maybe you have each group make 20 unless you're going to make it for them.
Okay.
But you could definitely scale down so there's less waste.
Okay.
How about anybody else? Any questions? Dr. Rapp, do you want to add anything?
Once again, I think you did a great job. And this is, like you were saying, really important in chemistry class, the whole polarity thing, but chromatography itself is a big thing. We use that, everywhere in biotech, even in purifying water.
And we'll also do chromatography next week because I believe we're doing gel electrophoresis. So that's just a different way to separate molecules based on their properties.
Right. Yeah. Well done.
So if you guys don't have any questions, I hope you have a great night and I hope you enjoyed the lab. And I think we will see each other next Tuesday.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love it.
Y'all have a great week.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.